crater highlands of Tanzania. In their shade lies one of the greatest wonders of the animal world, the grasslands of the Serengeti. This place, with its vast animal populations, is known all over the world as a symbol of wildlife conservation. Scientists here can study how animals live together, especially the big cats and their prey, on a scale that is possible nowhere else in the world. Lions are often regarded as the top predators, but studies show that they play a surprisingly minor role in the ecosystem. But people like symbols, and lions are the symbol of wild Africa and the conservation of its wildlife. But out here on the open plains, their life is not easy. In fact, the lion's lot is the hardest of all the animals of the Serengeti. February in the Serengeti. Gathered beside the gull kopjes are the largest herds of wild animals to be found in the world today. Such numbers are possible only because, by chance and uniquely in Africa, the park and its surroundings survived intact, offering enough space to provide for all their needs the whole year round. This is one of the few places on Earth where the old rules of nature are still in force. For biologists, the Serengeti is a unique window on the natural world. The land round the granite domes of the kopjes is the territory of the Gull Pride, a group of lions whose family history has been followed by zoologists for nearly 40 years. In 1998, they were doing particularly well. 6 mothers managed to raise 9 large, healthy young. The scientists have rarely seen the pride so big. Judging by the number of herbivores in the area, it looks as if the lions can feed at will. But things are not as easy as all that for them out on the open plains. The prey animals can see them coming from miles away. A lion you can see is no danger. What at first sight looks like a dramatic life and death struggle turns out to be the light-hearted morning games of the young hunters. The wildebeest are alert but not unduly worried. They seem to be playing a game of cat and mouse, almost sharing the joke. But they are not all fit and healthy. Among the huge herds, many wildebeest are old or sick or both. The game can quickly become serious. The lions are not really hungry, but no hunter can resist the opportunity of taking such easy prey. These unfortunate marginal animals make the lion's life easy at this time of year. In the years 1997 and 98, the herds stayed an unusually long time in the area of the gull kopjes because good rains produced an abundance of fresh grass. For 9 months, the Gol lions lived on the fat of the land. Almost all the cubs from the preceding year survived, which is very rare for lions in this territory. The awesome animals on their kill, surrounded by apparently terrified herbivores, create an illusion of total dominance. Lions, above all, seem to earn the title of the all-powerful king of the beasts. Even when they eat grass like domestic tabbies to help them throw up hairs and splinters of bone. Their sleek, muscular bodies, their fearful strength, and their lordly calm make them the very image of royalty. Before the relationship between predators and their prey was properly studied, it was assumed that carnivores were the most important factor in determining the fate of herbivores. A Thompson's gazelle buck uses its cheek glands to mark out its territory. It seems so small and helpless with nowhere to hide, completely at the mercy of the fastest cats on earth. The lightning sprint of a cheetah. Pure physical power and coordination, grace and elegance in its finest form on 4 legs. But the hunter must make no mistake. It's not speed alone that brings success, but skill. Hunting at this level is a mind game. To catch the buck, the cheetah must choose exactly the right moment to attack. Scenes like this have had far more influence on people's perception of nature than all the technical studies in the world. Watching her hunt, we feel that we understand what it is to be a cheetah, mistress of the chase. So why have the numbers of cheetahs in the Serengeti fallen steadily in the last few decades, while those of the antelopes and others have stayed level or even risen? The fact is that the life of the quarry animals is not as dangerous as it might seem. On the open plains, the herds are not constantly in fear of their lives. They're here for the short, sweet grass, which they need all the more urgently now in March, because they're about to produce their calves. During pregnancy and while she is suckling, a mother needs plenty of minerals. Here in the south, the grasses are rich in phosphorus, which is in short supply elsewhere in the Serengeti. It's one of the main reasons why the wildebeest gather here on the plains. The knock-kneed calves seem doomed from birth in a place which is supposed to be swarming with predators, red in tooth and claw. But they do astonishingly well here. One reason is that most of them are born in a few short weeks. When the first calves appear, thousands of other wildebeest cows give birth almost at the same time. No one knows exactly how this synchronization works, but the result is that the predators can take a much smaller proportion of the newborn young than if they were born over a longer period. In recent years, though, for some reason, the calving time of the wildebeest has been extended to rather more than 2 months. Because of this, the losses seem to be increasing. But another tactic still helps the calves to survive. They are incredibly quick to get to their feet. Most need less than 3 minutes. Within an hour, they can follow their mother. But here, beside the gull kopjes, they can relax. The wildebeest will not move far for the time being because there's plenty of food here. Among the large mammals of the Serengeti, after the wildebeest, Thompson's gazelle is the second most common. Even the adults are defenseless against most predators, and at birth they're completely helpless. The survival strategy of the young gazelles is opposite to that of the gregarious wildebeest. The mother is completely alone and unconcealed. Her only precaution was to scan the area carefully for signs of predators before she gave birth. Immediately after the birth, the calf must be thoroughly cleaned, so that it has as little scent as possible. Like the wildebeest, the little Tommy gets quickly to its feet. They must soon be gone because the scent of blood might attract predators. They have no herd to provide them with cover, and there aren't many predators against which the mother can defend her baby. Its survival now depends on finding a hiding place and staying there without moving. Half an hour after it is born, the calf staggers away with its mother. For the first few days, it can't run fast, so it looks for a clump of grass where it can hide. Rather than lying low like the gazelles, the young wildebeest depend from the start on being able to keep pace with their mothers. Zebra foals, whose families often move with the wildebeest, respond to the same challenges in the same way. They are born well developed in the relative safety of the herd, and they must also be good on their feet from their first day. For the young Tommy, everything depends on not being seen while it's being suckled by its mother. It would be very bad luck to be spotted by a predator in just these few minutes. She keeps her visit very short. Soon afterwards, the calf is once more invisible, even in grass only a few centimeters high. The female cheetah has absolutely no idea where the calf has gone. If it doesn't move a muscle, it will have a chance. This time she has lost a breeding season, but in her lifetime more of her young will survive than those of the female cheetah. Some herds keep moving even during the calving season. When they arrive at the gull kopjes, some of their newborn calves have already walked nearly 40 kilometers, and a few have lost contact with their mothers. Confused, this calf tries to join every group that wanders past. It finds no welcome. It has to run the gauntlet of the whole mixed herd. And of others, waiting in the grass. This little wildebeest is unbelievably lucky. The hyenas are fully fed and too slow off the mark to catch it. Finally, it finds a larger column of wildebeest, but that is not the end of its problems. It approaches each female full of hope, but none of them will give her valuable milk to an orphan. The calf falls further and further behind the herd, unnoticed. Its mother might be looking for it many kilometers away. This is how many long, lonely journeys come to an abrupt end. For weeks, the gull lions feed themselves effortlessly on the strays. Compared to the overall number of calves, these isolated casualties are insignificant. All in all, the hunters have only a small influence on the wildebeest population. The true rulers in this country are not teeth and claws, but hooves and horns. In the Serengeti in the 60s, people tried for the first time to keep track of the numbers of herbivores and predators over a large area and for a long period. This was the start of one of the most comprehensive monitoring programs in the world. Since then, the Frankfurt Zoological Society have made regular counts of the herds. The pilots fly at an accurately determined height along dead straight transects. Perpendicularly mounted cameras take hundreds of pictures at regular intervals, which between them represent about 1% of the whole area occupied by the herds. Each slide covers a precisely calculated area. The scientist can estimate the actual size of the herds by counting the animals in the pictures. The margins of error are relatively small if the flight was on exactly the right line and at the right height. The results were amazing. The first count in 1957 showed some 200,000 wildebeest. After the early 60s, when livestock all around the Serengeti were vaccinated against rinderpest, the count rose to nearly 1.5 million in only 15 years. Then they reached the carrying capacity of the pasture. These huge numbers could only survive if they had room to roam, to find the food they needed. From the plains of the southeastern Serengeti, they have always moved to the west during the dry season. In 1959, the Serengeti was expanded to the north. At the beginning of the 70s, the herds advanced through this corridor for the first time into the Masai Mara Reserve in Kenya. They could still find food there, even at the height of the dry season. No one expected this to happen when the park was extended. It was pure coincidence that the way to the north was opened at the same time as the numbers of wildebeest were rising. The zoologists were fascinated. Under their eyes, a giant experiment was taking place. A whole ecosystem was changing. What new balance would develop between the species? How would the predators respond? What influence would they have on the way things developed? These were all questions which until then it had not been possible to follow in the wild. The lion researchers were already in place when the eruption of the herds began. They knew most of the prides of the southern grasslands down to the last individuals. They recognize them by the pattern of their whiskers. However, to keep tabs on them, some of them occasionally have to suffer a little indignity. Every year they dart some of the lions. The radio batteries last for only 2 years and the transmitters have to be replaced regularly. Cats and man have been in contact for more than 40 years, though the individual researchers are changed every 2 years. While this film was being made, Canadian Grant Hopcroft was on location. With the Park Veterinary Service, he measures and examines every darted lion.
I'm looking for this this one here.
The information he collects reflects the lion's overall condition and shows how they're coping with the variety of prey available to them. Blood samples enable them to check for infectious diseases transmitted from the domestic animals that live around the park.
Bigger size? Yeah, 18 is the largest.
This work might one day be very important. It was rinderpest, a disease of domestic cattle brought in from Europe, that saw off millions of ruminants in the Serengeti in the early 20th century. The research into the Serengeti lions is the longest and most detailed ever carried out into a free-living mammal population, and every year it produces new information. Several times a month, Grant Hopcroft makes contact with the individual prides. He travels in wide circles round the area, using the antenna mounted on his vehicle. The signal shows him the direction from several kilometers away. Over the years, scientists have built up an accurate picture of the lion territories in the southern Serengeti. It's enough to collar only one animal from each pride, because the other females are usually not far away. They only mark lionesses these days. They remain at the center of their pride, while the males are regularly replaced. Although the southern Serengeti consists mostly of open country, without radio collars the lions would be easy to miss, hidden among the golden grass. The study includes more than the size of the territories. It's equally important to follow individuals. How is the population doing? Who is bringing up cubs? Which young survive? And where do they go when they leave home? Prides are made up of closely related females defending a common territory. The males are only passing visitors for a year or two. This is how the distribution of the lion territories looked in 1998. 15 prides share the grasslands. The males dominate the female groups, reserving the mating rights to themselves by fighting off other males. Sometimes they can cover more than one territory. Here, a coalition of 2 dominant males lays claim to 13 females from 3 different prides. If the females were too many, they could split the group and make separate territories. The Gaul pride has one of the largest territories. They need plenty of space to survive through the dry season when prey is in short supply. Now in April, they're still feasting on the abundance of the herds. Most of the pride has moved to the eastern edge of the territory where the wildebeests are most numerous. In the center of their territory, near the kopjes, a strange female has appeared. She belongs to no pride but lives alone with her young. The scientists call a landless animal like this a nomad. The area seems promising, but she must be careful. She can't afford to take risks. It could mean the end of her young. The cubs have a hard life because their mother is constantly on the move. However, they are well fed. Shortage of food is not their problem. Their mother is more concerned to keep them safe. Cautiously, she first reconnoiters the rocks alone. The steep, smooth rocks are hard to climb, but the place seems safe. They feel more confident and struggle to the top. The kopjes make a good vantage point and a hiding place in the flat country. Lions like to sit up here. After they have climbed the first rise, they find an exciting playground. Here there are strange animals that they don't see in the grasslands. Bush hyraxes balance on the swaying twigs, nibbling at caper flowers. Above the leathery rosettes of their leaves, colourful clusters of aloe flowers attract sunbirds. In this unfamiliar world, the little lions soon return to their mother's side. She has found water in one of the cracks. Natural cisterns like this are another reason why the kopjes are so attractive. The water supply makes it possible for a much greater variety of animals to live here than in the relatively monotonous grasslands. Something is disturbing the nomad. Finally, her suspicion turns to certainty. Suddenly, the young are in great danger. They must not be caught either by the lion or the lioness. Strange youngsters are competition and fair game. It's panic stations, every man for himself. One of the cubs has been seen squeezing into a crack between the rocks. The female in the hole is relatively young and somewhat apprehensive when she sees the nomad. But there is no doubt that she has claims on this place. The male doesn't hold back either, and the little one is trapped. The nomad furiously sets about the gull lioness. She even manages to drive the lady of the house back into the hole. The lion, meanwhile, has got hold of the young one in the rocky crevice. He has nothing against the nomad, but strange youngsters are not welcome in his area. The third cub has also escaped into the grass. Anxiously, he listens to the roars of the adults in the rocky labyrinth. Too late, she notices what is happening between the rocks, but she doesn't hesitate to have a go, even at the powerful male. The male avoids a serious fight with the nomad because he sees her as another possible mate, but he defends himself energetically enough to draw blood. He could have killed her when he had her in the tight corner, but now she seems to have forgotten the danger. Frothing with fury, she calls for her cubs. They are scared stiff. The noise of the fighting has driven them even further away. It's situations like this that make the difference between success and failure in a lion family. The young, frightened female will soon once more have the protection of her pride when the gull lions return to the kopjes. She will not have to care for her young alone, unlike the unfortunate nomad. Hours later, far out in the grassland, one of the young finally comes back to his mother. He is still deeply upset, as if he knew how narrowly he had escaped death. Between the rocks, they all relax once more. The male isn't particularly upset by the tension between the females. In fact, the scent of the stranger is quite pleasant to him. For all her bravery, there was no way that the nomad could have prevented the disaster that overtook her family. It's an ever-present danger for single lion mothers. Scientists today see the protection of the young as the main reason for the development of lion prides. The third cub will not return either. Alone in the grass, he must have been killed by another predator. Among hunters, every other carnivore is a rival to be eliminated. In the records of the Lion Research Group, there is hardly a single nomadic lioness who managed to raise her young to independence. Far behind the gull kopjes, old crater walls rise on the horizon. Those volcanoes created this rich, flat grassland. But at the same time, they cause the ordeal that the gull pride has to undergo every year. Old Onyo Lengai, the holy mountain of the Maasai, today the only volcano in the area that is still active. It last erupted in 1967. For hundreds of thousands of years, the volcanic ash was carried to the northwest by the prevailing wind, creating the vast, flat plains. Close to the mountains, only grass can grow with its shallow roots. These mountains formed and nourished the Serengeti. But the gigantic block of the ancient massif behind Lengai has an effect on the climate that imposes a heavy burden on the animals. The extinct craters force the clouds upwards. As they cool down, they drop their rain. The southeast slopes of the mountain are covered with rampant, dripping cloud forest. When the air currents roll down the northwest slopes of the mountains, they warm up again. But now they are so dry that they suck up what little moisture there is. Very soon after the rainy season, drought develops quickly in this rain shadow. Now the clouds will bring no more rain, but disperse as they stream down the slopes. In a few weeks, the lush, green land is changed. For more than 6 months, it will produce no more new grass, and most of the waterholes will dry out. As if taunting the land, the clouds roll every day across a parched, yellow desert. Long before the weather reaches this stage, the wildebeest herds prepare to depart. The scattered groups form into columns of march, and soon the whole mass sets off to the northwest. Some of the predators will follow them. These adolescent cheetahs have just been abandoned by their mother and must now try to manage on their own. They are surrounded by wildebeest, but the increase in the herds did not benefit the cheetahs in the Serengeti. On the contrary, as the herds increased, so did the numbers of hyenas and lions, and more young cheetahs were killed by rival predators. Since the 60s, the numbers of cheetahs have fallen steadily, though they have always had plenty of wildebeest to hunt. Both males in the cheetah group are confident enough to try their luck with a calf. Wildebeest are not especially fast, and the first cheetah quickly catches up as expected. But faced by a determined mother, his courage deserts him. The second, too, makes no more than a token attack. But in a year's time, he and his brother will be a threat even to full-grown wildebeest. The beginning of June. The full moon brings on the main rutting season among the wildebeest. For weeks now, the bulls have been scrapping amongst themselves. Now the fights have become serious. Long duels like this are not common. The fighting only becomes really violent in the few places where the herds stay put for long periods. This is not to say that the bulls normally ignore each other. During the rut in the more typical wandering herds, they must mark out new breeding arenas every day. Not a job for the faint-hearted. After a few weeks, the bulls are worn out. For many of them, this is the climax of their lives. They hardly eat anything. They spend all their time driving away rivals or hunting down receptive females. The cows with young seem unimpressed by the whole business. Every day they wander unmoved through the territories of dozens of bulls. Each bull tries to keep the females for as long as possible in his little territory of a few hundred square meters to check whether they are receptive. The bulls have to follow the herd, establishing themselves again and again in the path of the migrating females before they all pass by. It's an endless effort, but they seem to enjoy every minute of it. Especially energetic and strong animals mate dozens of times. After all, who knows if they will survive to see the next season? The passing wildebeest provide the gull lions with another good chance to hunt. The adolescents do not know that this could be their last chance for many months. But travelling wildebeest are not easy to catch unawares. Because the column is so narrow, they're hard to ambush. Many eyes are alert for danger on every side. Even for the experienced lionesses, it is no easy business. Contrary to popular opinion, the scientists find that when lions hunt wildebeest, cooperation among them is rare. In this case, typically, the attack is carried out without evident communication between the hunters. Most members of the pride merely watch from a distance. None of them is keen to risk unnecessary injury in a fight. If the lioness is successful, everyone will get a share of the meat. This reluctance to hunt goes completely against all the clichés describing lions as cooperative hunters, but it has been confirmed here hundreds of times. Soon, every failure will cost the lions dear. The parched land provides no more prey. The few ostriches and gazelles are far too difficult to catch. Amazingly, there are still a few warthogs here. Almost all the other herbivores have had to move away, but they can still find food. Buried in the rock-hard earth are juicy grass roots and tubers, and the warthogs know how to get to them. The underground parts of plants contain their stores for the next rainy season, and even a little moisture, a valuable food source which the warthogs can exploit without competition from any other animals. But they have a different problem at this time of year. They can't sweat, so they need to wallow in order to cool down. If they have to, they can survive for some weeks without a bath, but while there are still puddles to be found, they can't resist cooling off in them every day. It's a dangerous addiction, which leaves them very vulnerable. For the hungry lions of the Gol pride, heat-stressed warthogs soon become their most important food. Warthogs have very poor eyesight. What's more, the last of the water lies at the bottom of depressions, so that they can't see their surroundings. Predators can creep up on them unseen. The wallowing warthogs are constantly on the alert, but their own movements in the mud drown out warning sounds. Soon, the Gol lions are living almost exclusively on warthogs. Scientists find that without them, large parts of the southern Serengeti would be practically uninhabitable for lions during the dry season. The only problem is that there are not very many warthogs. By August, there's no room for the young lions in the Gol pride. They will have to go off and find their own food. Even the daughters who would normally stay are driven away. This year there are just too many of them. In the dry season, the barren land round the Gol kopjes can't feed them all. At first, some of the youngsters stay together, but constant quarrelling soon drives them apart. The young females have a particularly hard time in this scorched and empty landscape. They try to stay for as long as they can in the places that they know, but there is little prey, and they quickly lose condition. The wildebeest left the grasslands long ago to move far to the north. The rain shadow of the volcanoes doesn't reach this far, and there's still food and water here even in the dry season. While their sisters stayed in the south, the young males of the Gol pride followed the herds. They had been surviving on carrion left over by other hunters. Here they can find plenty of prey, but they still have to learn to catch it without help. The herd can smell the lion. Lions are often said to take advantage of the wind direction while they're hunting, but it's not true. It's not inexperience that makes this youngster give himself away. The swirling breeze keeps wafting his scent towards the herd, making the animals uneasy. But there are signs of predators all over the place here, and the zebras are very thirsty. In the tall grass, he creeps closer, meter by meter. At last, he is close enough to attack. But he can't yet manage the last phase of the hunt alone. The milling crowd confuses him. Another gust of wind startles the animals, but this time an old wildebeest bull is trapped in the mud. The learner is at a loss. The decisive leap at this stage was always made by the experienced lionesses. The bull makes one last heroic effort. And finally, all those months of practice pay off. The instincts of the young hunter come into play. He's still clumsy, but the wildebeest is dying. In fact, the lion has only brought forward a little his inevitable death from old age. For the young lion, this is an important step on the road to independence. But his real trials still lie ahead. They will come when he has to find a territory of his own. His siblings in the south have still not made their first successful hunt, and they have no chance of finding a territory. They have become nomads, and at the most difficult time of year. All the lions in the grasslands are hungry now. The weakest are dying. When the herds return, they will meet only those few hunters which survived the ordeal of the big hunger. This is why lions have so little impact on the migrating herds. Without them, very little would change in the Serengeti. They can't follow the herds because their young need safe, well-protected territories. Not lions, but rainfall governs the numbers of wildebeest and zebra. Her stomach rumbling, she dreams of better times when she and her powerful family were safe and well. The blessing of a long rainy season did not last. Relentlessly, the Gol pride has been reduced to 6 females who can just survive the dry season in their 200 square kilometer territory. In many of the last 40 years, scientists have witnessed the harsh lot of the lions on the plains. But their news fell for the most part on deaf ears. We still prefer to see lions as all-powerful symbols of the wilderness. We don't want them to be pathetic starvelings. We want kings to marvel at, to keep alive in us echoes of the country of our ancestors, when beyond the circle of firelight, mighty hunters ruled the night. Perhaps these ancient voices will persuade us to protect this land as it is now, for future generations. Over the last 25 million years, ancient volcanoes created the plains that are known today as the Serengeti. Every year, the largest herds of animals anywhere on Earth gather on the grasslands below the volcanoes. They are followed by the most successful predators in Africa, hyenas, efficient pack hunters with an amazingly complex social life. In the dry season, the grazing herds move to the bush country where other dangers await them. They can cope with leopards and crocodiles. But against the steel snares of humans, they are helpless. The west of the Serengeti is a hotbed of poaching. Rangers have died fighting against the gangs and also for the right to life of all the animals, including hyenas. For these hyenas, it was a successful night. They have killed a wildebeest, enough food to satisfy 10 of them. It's April, a good time for predators here in the far southeast of the Serengeti, when the wildebeest herds come to produce their calves. No carnivore goes hungry at this time of year. Even so, hours after the hunt, some of the hyenas squabble with golden jackals over the last few scraps. The jackals are wary, but they have nothing much to fear. The fight is more a matter of principle. All hunters instinctively defend their kill as a valuable food supply, even when there's plenty for everyone. Most of the hyenas have returned to their den, where they left their offspring overnight. "12 velvety black pups emerge from the hole to greet their mothers. There's no love lost between the pups. While they wait to be fed, they constantly snap and snarl at one another. Hyenas are astonishingly quarrelsome from the moment they're born. In April, the youngsters are not left alone for long because their mothers seldom travel far away. Here on the eastern edge of the Serengeti, they can find enough prey close to the Barafu koppies. In the early morning, there's a bustle of activity at the den, even though the 36 adult animals of the clan are rarely all on parade at the same time. The females are the center of the clan. They are very aggressive because their blood contains an unusually high amount of male hormones. The hormones cause the females to develop a pseudo-penis. For a long time, hyenas were thought to be hermaphrodite. Only a strict social hierarchy allows them to live together without constant infighting. Part of this is the well-known greeting ceremony, in which weaker animals proffer their private parts to be sniffed by their seniors. This is like showing an identity card. All members of the group know one another by scent. In this way, they can minimize aggression and live more amicably together. The tension that always arises among the clan members when they meet is eased. The mothers can settle down to caring for their babies. Of all African predators, hyenas produce milk with the highest nutritional content. The females have a much greater role in the rearing of the young than other carnivores because for a whole year the pups feed almost exclusively on their milk. This is a very long time for such small animals, and it places a great burden on the mothers. Because of this, they reserve their milk for their own offspring. Hyenas never ever suckle the young of other mothers in the clan. Other carnivores, for example silver-backed jackals, have a completely different way of raising their young. They wean their puppies very early to eat undigested meat. This is a much more efficient system because it doesn't waste energy converting food into milk. But jackals can be sure that the food will benefit only their own young. In the hyena's communal den, the dominant animals will commandeer all the meat for themselves and their pups. This is why hyena mothers provide food only in the form of milk, which can't be stolen from them. During the day, most hyenas move away from the burrow to doze through the heat of the day. But not all of them are so lethargic. A kilometre away from the clan's main burrow, a young female is beginning a new shelter. A few males and sub-adults have followed her out of curiosity, but they daren't come close. Even though she's young, she's far above them in the hierarchy. She's pregnant, looking for a quiet, safe place away from the hurly-burly of the central clan. In April, the Barafu clan lives in 6 side-by-side burrows next to a waterhole. Every couple of weeks, they move on. The young are better protected in a communal den, but among such aggressive animals as hyenas, harmony is not the order of the day. The males must be on their best behavior if they want to be tolerated in the neighborhood of the den. Young animals inherit the rank of their mother, so that even older members of the group treat them with respect and offer themselves to be sniffed. Hyenas live in a complex social network. There is bitter rivalry within the clan, and without allies, an animal would soon be marginalized. Small pups, especially those born to low-ranking animals, can easily come to grief. For this reason, mothers give birth a safe distance away. For the young female, it's just happened. It's her first birth, and she's very uncertain. The entrance to the nursery must be small enough to keep adults out. Anxiously, she carries her babies from one temporary burrow to the next. Hyenas are born very well developed. They inherit from their mother the high hormone level that makes them vicious even to their siblings. In their first minutes of life, still shaky and weak, but with sharp little teeth, they begin their lifelong battle for status in society. After several nerve-wracking journeys, the mother finally relaxes. But for the next few days, she won't dare to leave the pups alone for any length of time. At the main burrow, the young wait hungrily for the return of the females, passing the time by sparring. For now, they fight each other at random, but later they will learn how they are placed according to the rank of their mothers. With a swollen udder that can hold as much as 4 litres of milk, the dominant female comes back from a hunting trip. Although they have hardly any chance of success, the smallest puppies keep trying to steal an extra drink. They still don't know which are the higher-ranking adults, and they seem not to be able to see the danger. If they come across a female in a particularly bad mood, it could be the end of them. The young mother has every reason to keep her young well away from the main den. But out here, she must keep watch for predators alone, while in the main den the whole clan is on guard. She has brought her babies to a place that was used by the clan a little while ago, where there are several other old holes close by. Capped wheatears often make use of old hyena holes. They breed in the chamber, collecting ticks and lice from inside. They help the hyenas by keeping down the numbers of parasites. Sometimes they even dispute the right of other birds to bigger items of food. Almost every afternoon during the rainy season, clouds build up over the kopjes. For the Barafoo hyenas, the rainstorms are annoying, but no worse than that. Even now, the adults lie in the open because the holes are much too small for them. A much more important effect of the rain is to keep the grazing animals in the hyena's territory. Every shower brings more fresh grass. In the evening, it's still drizzling lightly. The air is now much cooler. This part of the Serengeti is nearly 1,800 meters up. The hyenas don't mind this. They seem to enjoy the cool weather. In the twilight, the Barafoo hyenas have scattered. They are ready for their night's work. There are seldom more than 2 or 3 hunters together, usually closely related and of about the same rank. It would be pointless to hunt with partners of much superior rank. The underdogs wouldn't get a fair share of the prey. Anyway, a single hyena can kill a wildebeest unaided. By dummy attacks, they check whether there are weak animals in the herd. The attack that follows is unexpected. At first it looks harmless, and the bull seems not to take it seriously. But hyenas have the greatest stamina of all African predators. They can run for 5 kilometers at more than 50 kilometers per hour. Finally, the bull can no longer keep up the pace. Effortlessly, the hyena catches up, snapping at its flanks with her powerful jaws. It's surely only a matter of seconds before it's all over. Then the wildebeest's luck turns. Now, after getting so close, the hyena must turn aside to avoid a group of spectators. For her, a bitter irony. For the bull, a life-saving break. But the hunt has only begun. A long night lies ahead for the herd, and the Barafoo clan will take its toll. The clan now has no need to worry about food. There are more than enough wildebeest in their territory of over 60 square kilometers. The hunters patrol their area almost every day, checking old scent marks and laying new ones. But there are intruders. Strange hyenas have ventured into the hunting grounds beside the Barafoo kopjes, attracted by the huge herds. The noise at the kill has alerted the owners of the territory. The trespassers see them too late. Although they are in the majority, they don't try to defend themselves, but take to their heels immediately. The Barafoo hyenas don't seem especially irritated. After a symbolic chase, they return to the remains of the wildebeest that the intruders killed. As long as strange hyenas stay away from the clan's den and behave politely, they will usually come to no harm. One of the Barafoo females lays a scent mark near the prey. These marks warn passers-by to take care. No stranger would dare to show its face near the central den without risking a serious attack. The young, after all, are the clan's most important resource. The fighting which occupies much of their time is fiercest among siblings. It's not just about milk, it's mainly because both have inherited equal rank. Daughters will never leave the clan. They will stay for life as fierce, equal rivals, while their brothers wander away. If there are twin daughters, one is usually killed by the other. Towards 11 o'clock, it is very hot. The first females try to cool down. The young usually go back into the cool holes in the heat of the day. But when the mother doesn't come to the den for a long time, thirst draws them outside. All seems peaceful, but only the inner circle of the clan is permitted here. The little ones are tolerated, so long as they keep out of the way of the adults. They don't yet know what to make of the mud, but when they're grown up, they will love it for wallowing or bathing. Hyenas don't like the heat, which is why they are active almost exclusively in the cool of the evening or at night. The time has come for the young female to bring her babies to the central den. At first, they're not keen to leave the only home they have known and have to be helped along. Out here, everything is new and strange. With a mixture of fascination and fear, they explore the unknown. It's a long journey for them, unaided. On the way, their mother meets the first of their clan companions, which will soon be inspecting the newcomers. Everyone wants to meet the new young clan members. But because of her low rank, she has to enter the den humbly, and with her social limitations, she can't drive away the boisterous adolescents. So she takes her litter hurriedly into one of the holes. In mid-May, the wildebeest leave the short grasslands. For the Barafoo clan, the good times are coming to an end. To find food now, they often have to scour their whole territory. They lay very frequent scent marks at the boundaries. The young female has brought her babies into the safety of the communal den just in time, because now she will have to travel further and further to reach the wildebeest herds. This means that she must go far beyond the boundary of Barafoo country. She is in the hunting territory of another clan, but she has no choice in the matter. The scattered wildebeest keep an eye on her, keeping their calves behind them as a precaution. She has tried many times in the night to make a kill, and she's exhausted. Nevertheless, she keeps the wildebeest moving. Perhaps she will be lucky and find a sick or injured animal. But they're all running well with plenty of energy. She has no chance, especially as it's now getting hot. Not far away, other hyenas were more successful earlier in the morning. There's not much left of the wildebeest, but even the bones are worth eating. Hyena jaws can produce a pressure of 800 kilos per square centimetre. They can chew up even thick leg bones. The female is uncertain. Are these the local territory holders, or commuters like her? If they too are passers-by, then perhaps she will get a share. But they belong here. She has hesitated for too long. Now she can no longer get away. The animals of the home clan at first seem amazed by her insolence. Then they attack. In the weeks to come, she will have to take such risks again and again to produce milk for her youngsters. Sometimes she's badly wounded when she drags herself back home. For all her efforts, her milk is barely sufficient. The babies have to wait many days between meals and grow only very slowly. The high-ranking females are now, as ever, almost daily in the den. They commandeer what little prey is still available in the territory for their own exclusive use. Therefore, now as ever, they don't have to travel far, and they still give good milk. But the other young cannot share it. Some have lost their black puppy colour, and after about 2.5 months acquired the typical hyena spots. Now they are well able to eat meat, but only a very few privileged individuals will actually get any at this age. In mid-June, the main body of the herds reach the bushland in the middle of the Serengeti. The young hyena mother has followed them. The local topi are almost overwhelmed by the massive herds, but at least they're temporarily free from lions, because in the coming weeks they will concentrate on the wildebeest. Three individual lionesses have spread out round the herd of wildebeest and zebra. None of them pays any attention to what the others are doing. But when the herd panics, by chance one of the lionesses is lying in their way, and the others come to share with her. For the time being, there's nothing here, but what the lions leave behind will be enough to satisfy a hyena. It's worth waiting. One of the lionesses brings her young to the kill. The hyena is hungry and has eyes only for the lions on the kill. Another joins her, also a commuter. Neither notices the danger behind them. This time she's lucky. The lioness merely wants to keep her away from her young. But some of the big cats actually make it their business to kill hyenas. leopards move on. The hyena mother must now travel 50 kilometers to reach them, from the Barafoo kopjes in the east of the park as far as the bushland on the Serona River. Here, the wildebeest rarely meet the hunters of the plains, but in the thickets ahead of them there are other dangers. Leopards can kill wildebeest. Mostly, though, they feed on smaller gazelles and antelopes, like impala. Impala are used to the danger from leopards. After all, they live here in the bush, right next door to them. It is a silent duel, which is sometimes only decided by tiny mistakes by one of the contestants. The cat sees a chance. When a buck has passing females in his territory, he's preoccupied for minutes on end. Enough time for her to get within range. The last few meters are in the open, and the buck makes no mistake. Both know that the game is over. The wildebeest have passed through the central bushland into open country once more. Even now, in July, there's still plenty of food here. They're in the western corridor of the Serengeti, a landscape of gallery forests stretching along the Grumeti River as far as Lake Victoria. At this time of year, it's dry here too, and the few waterholes are crowded. Even the Grumeti River can become no more than a string of pools. Even at the height of the dry season, the river itself is still a source of water, but there is sometimes a price to pay. The largest crocodiles in Africa live in the Grumeti. Their main food supply is the herds that come to the banks of the river every year at this time. The experienced wildebeest know the danger. But some of the yearlings have never seen a crocodile, and they are thirsty. The floodplain of the river is fertile land. Only the tsetse fly, which carries sleeping sickness, has protected it from being claimed by people. Today, the disease is curable and no longer the deterrent that it was. The region to the west of the Serengeti is now the center of a conflict between economy and ecology. To serve as buffer zones between the settlers and the park, 3 reserves have been set up on the western border. In the controlled areas of Ikarongo, Grumeti and Maswa, agriculture is permitted only under certain conditions. Even so, more and more people are moving here. They are one of the greatest problems for conservationists because their influence on the park is so hard to control. One problem that is often recognized too late is the spread of diseases into the park. In the early 90s, there was an outbreak of canine distemper in the Serengeti, which spread to the lions and killed 1/3 of the population. An inoculation program was started among the settlers' dogs, which were thought to be the main source of the disease. This campaign should provide a safety zone round the park. The animals are also immunized against rabies, the disease which is thought to have wiped out the wild dogs in the park. It's slow, painstaking work, and no one can guarantee success. But it's very similar to the inoculation of domestic cattle which led to the eradication of rinderpest in the 60s, since when the wildebeest population has grown tenfold. That was the greatest animal recovery operation ever seen here. Fire is another scourge brought to the land by humans. The grass grows back very quickly after a fire, but because bushes and trees often die, the vegetation as a whole suffers. In the Serengeti, people deliberately set fire to the fresh grass after the rainy season. These controlled burns create huge clouds of smoke, big enough to concern meteorologists. But the fire is seldom hot enough to do serious damage to the bush. Although it looks dramatic, these cool burns serve to reduce the dangerous hot fires, which could otherwise devastate the whole landscape at the height of the dry season. Large animals can easily avoid the flames, but for smaller creatures they can be the final catastrophe. A rain of insects patters down from the advancing flames. For many birds, they're a welcome banquet. Wattled starlings often line up at the edge of the burn, waiting for refugees from the fire. After jumping to safety so many times, the insects are exhausted, and the carbon monoxide makes them dazed and sluggish. Places which are frequently burned must lose much of their insect fauna, but there's still no detailed research into the long-term effects of this. The birds take only a few of them. Most of the insects die in the fire. What seems on a small scale like an apocalypse is completely successful over the wider ecosystem. The fire policy of the authorities has protected the park as a whole. So long as the fire breaks are correctly set up each year, the benefit to the vegetation is greater than the harm done. In September, large areas lie blackened and desolate, but as soon as the first rains fall in October, the land recovers. Today, there is more bush in the Serengeti than there ever was before, although 30 years ago people feared that it would be totally lost. It was even suggested that elephants should be shot out because their large appetites supposedly destroyed too much of the bush. Now we know that the damage they do was greatly exaggerated. People rejoice to see them returning to the Serengeti after the heavy losses caused by ivory poaching. Elephants were nearly wiped out here until they were rescued by the ban on ivory trading. But poaching for meat still goes on. One of the greatest threats to animal life in the Serengeti is the snare. Where once snares were clumsy affairs made from plant fibers, the poachers now have long-lasting steel wire. It can be made into a cheap but deadly trap, which remains lethal for months on end. In the whistling thorn forest, the wire is hard to see. Animals just don't perceive the danger, and over the centuries they have never learned to avoid snares. Wildebeests are particularly vulnerable because they're among the few grassland animals that regularly push through the thickets. In the battle against poaching, the herds are located from the air so that rangers can be sent in to patrol key areas. Since the days of Bernard Gimec, aircraft provided by the Frankfurt Zoological Society have been used to coordinate ground actions in the Western Corridor. Patrols visit the crucial areas for weeks on end. It's a hugely expensive operation for such a poor country as Tanzania, even when the cost of the equipment is partly covered by donations. They look for the hidden camps of poachers and also snares, which are most often set in long lines to intercept the herds. Over many years, they have collected more than 3,000 of them. To encourage the rangers, they were offered a premium for every snare they destroyed. Sadly, because funds are short, this offer has had to be withdrawn. Annual arrests stand at over 700. Some of the poachers are ruthlessly violent, working in organized gangs. Until the gangs were smashed in the 90s, they killed police informants, and several rangers met their deaths in gun battles. Many camps that they find are abandoned at the last minute. In the bush, tracking people is very difficult, making the exercise dangerous and often frustrating. The rapid growth of the human population to the west of the Serengeti produces a heavy demand for bush meat. By some estimates, 150,000 animals a year are poached in the park and in the surrounding areas, more than are eaten by all the predators together. While bush meat is cheaply available, agriculture and cattle rearing will be slow to develop. Even though in the long run such enterprises would benefit more people, they can't compete with the immediate profits of poaching. The ranger patrols can only limit the damage for the time being. There will have to be a political and economic solution. Until that comes about, the animals of the Serengeti will continue to suffer, and not only the herbivores. Poaching might be having effects on the ecosystem which nobody can foresee today. Predators are often caught as well because they're attracted by the refuse around the poachers' camps. Even if they can break free, they can't undo the wire. The Hyena Working Group estimates that 8% of hyena mothers fall prey to snares every year. All those young cubs will wait in vain for their mothers to return. In the den of the Barafu clan, things come to a head in July. The pups of the dominant animals are still doing well because their mothers usually hunt nearby, within the clan's territory. But the young of the low-ranking animals are now very hungry because their mothers are away for as much as 6 days at a time in search of food. As time passes, the young female's pups have become weaker. They have been waiting a good 10 days for her to return. Although it's a risky business, they keep trying to steal a sip of milk. It's a wonder that they're both still alive. But because they are brother and sister, at least they are now less quarrelsome. Barely a kilometre away from the hole, a cheetah makes a mistake. The fighting bucks are preoccupied and seem like easy prey. The chase has brought it closer to the den. Vultures gliding down are an unmistakable sign for hyenas. Once hyenas find its prey, the cheetah might as well give up. The vultures drop like stones out of the sky. For them, every second counts. But this time, like the cheetah, they will be disappointed. Even most of the hyenas go hungry. The dominant alpha female has got her teeth into the carcass, and she will not share it with anyone, least of all at this lean time. Only she dares to bring food to the den. For her young, it will be the first taste of meat. None of the pups have ever seen a whole carcass, and at first they're rather timid. But these two are starving almost to death. They too have yet to taste meat, but they seem to recognize it at once. The senior female has hardly turned her back when the pups pounce on the carcass. This could cost them dear. The little male has had enough and disappears underground, but his sister won't give in yet. The alpha hyena's pup keeps watch while its mother feeds. Well fed, it wants to play, but the emaciated pup tears off whatever scraps she can while the alpha female is not looking. But when the mother returns, she has to leave the feast. Now the tubby, privileged pup has its chance. It's 5 days later. The young female has still not returned. Three weeks after the disappearance of their mother, her pups are no more than puppets for their playmates. The young males hardly even notice their desperate condition, but they can at least offer them a degree of comfort in their dying days. No one knows what happened to their mother. A hyena's life can come to a sudden end for many reasons. It might have been other hyenas, lions, or the pitiless snares that did for her. In the following weeks, the land quickly dries out. At the end of September, the clan waits for the next rainy season, which will once more bring prey into their territory. Of the 14 young of the Barafoo clan, 8 have survived this far. All are the offspring of the high-ranking females. They still have a long road ahead before they find a place in hyena society. Here on the edge of the Serengeti, they will still meet with many hard times. There is no sentimentality among hyenas. They fight from birth for rank and status. But so do other animals as well. It's a basic rule of life, and we ourselves are no exception. Hyenas simply have the bad luck to be rather unattractive to our eyes, so that we judge them much more harshly than lions or cheetahs. But they have the same right to life as all the rest of the animal kingdom. And the people who preserve that kingdom, and the hyenas with it, deserve our respect.